There are many white people, especially white strangers, that I have my guard up. And it's because I'm trying to protect myself from them. I don't know if this is a safe person.
Why is it that the most racist almost always exclusively comes from people on the far left? You're afraid of white people? And it's crazy that she says this so freely, right? Being a teacher and all.
White educators should be a safe space for Black students. If you're wondering why you're not able to connect with those kids, it's probably because they don't feel safe around you.
Just for a second, imagine this being the new way that people can't handle their kids misbehaving, right? No longer is it, I'm sorry, he's a troubled child. Now it's, Miss Scarcella, my child is afraid of you because you're white. Somebody on Twitter said, I'm Asian and I don't feel safe around her. Am I doing it right? Maybe we just shouldn't discipline students at all, right? Just let them have a free-for-all. Because of course that too is white supremacy.
As white teachers, when we say, oh, this student's giving me issues and they're put out of class, that fuels that school to prison pipeline, which is a white supremacist system that we are upholding.
You know what? Let me ask my friend Zeke about this because he is Black, he is a cop, and he has kids.
Wow, I really hope she stretched before making that kind of reach in that statement. I mean, if anything, I would say that failing to discipline a kid does more to further to school's prison pipeline because it teaches them that there are no responsibilities, there are no consequences for their action. There's no justification for saying, oh, this is white supremacy just because you're telling an unruly kid that he or she cannot disrupt every other kid and their learning experience. This has got to stop trying to tie everything into white supremacy and trying to tie everything into some sort of social justice movement. Sometimes disciplining a kid is just that, disciplining a kid just to make sure that they get better and that everyone around them isn't affected.
I mean, people can't even be attracted to Black men anymore without it somehow being racism, white supremacy, something.
White women love Black men because of the power dynamic, because white women have never had any power over men in their lives. Because obviously all the white men in their lives have always had all the power over them.
Do you mean that white women don't like Black men because they are usually very handsome and have bigger dicks? I'm gonna get for saying that, but it's usually true. I mean, I know that's why a ton of gay men like Black guys.
So white women have whiteness over Black men. And obviously to be in any sort of like control feels good, especially when you're used to never being in control. White women feel safe with Black men, not only because of the hypermasculinity that they believe Black men exhibit.
False. Black men do tend to exhibit more masculinity. It's a culture thing. It's also why Hispanic men and Black men tend to not be as accepting of gay people. That's just straight fact, or gay fact. And this is interesting because aren't y'all the ones that are like hyper aware of how many people of color there are gay, like LGBT people of color that are homeless? Like, why do you think the reason for that is? Black people also tend to be more religious, more traditionally for gender roles. This is my favorite response to this person, by the way. This is my favorite response to her.
It's interesting that you would say that white women are in control when they date Black men, because Black women say the opposite. Black women say that Black men date white women because Black men can get away with anything. So which one is it?
By the way, we are so hell-bent on being anti-racist that now we have anti-racist math. You heard that right. And no, I'm not talking about the whole grade on a curve thing, because Black kids aren't smart as white kids, or whatever Joe Biden says, poor kids aren't as smart as white kids. This is teaching anti-racism in math equations, in math problems. Basically, CRT, a squared plus b squared equals POC squared. It's the only equation I remember from math, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Let's read some of it, shall we? Coaching and teaching anti-racist math at the high school level. Math lessons that focus on understanding social and racial injustices are an important piece of the broader struggle for justice. However, teachers cannot simply take on an activity and implement it in their classrooms without first doing the self-reflective work. Of course, you can't teach anti-racism without being an anti-racist yourself. No one even knows what those words mean these days. I mean, next year we're gonna see anti-transphobic science. Wait, we already see that every day. Okay, what about anti-homosexual physical education? If you're a gay guy and you're super effeminate, all you gotta do is show up to class and pass. Or have a nice if the gym teacher's a perv. But don't worry, change is a-comin'. A Wisconsin school board voted in favor of a policy banning gay pride flags and Black Lives Matter flags from classrooms due to what school leaders say is political messaging. Back in the day, having a gay flag in there wasn't political. It was just like, listen, you are safe here. But now we know that's not actually the case. The Kettle Moraine School Board voted last Tuesday in favor of keeping a code of conduct in place that the school's superintendent had interpreted as banning teachers from displaying political and religious messages in classrooms. I think that's a good thing. The political messages include ones such as gay pride flags, Black Lives Matter flags, and we back the badge or we back the police signs. I am pro not having all of these things in classrooms. I think classrooms should just be simply about teaching students and equality, but not having equality blasted onto the boards and the ceilings of the place, because we know that this is not actually what equality is. This is certainly a good thing though. I mean, although people these days can make just about anything political, right? And remember, it's not just what you say or do, it's what you don't say or don't do. Remember when everyone didn't post a black square, got absolutely trampled by their friends, by their family, by media, by anybody, for not posting a black square on Instagram? Remember, the far left does this to control you, to control people. Look at what happens when a black woman says that she is not oppressed.
When I said that as a black person, I'm not oppressed. And I mean, you could say that anywhere else in the world and it'll be like, yeah, of course, we understand. But people, maybe a small minority, but a very loud minority, especially at that time where everything was so overly politicized, really didn't like me saying that as a black person here in the Western world, having have come from Zimbabwe, a country that is, the population is genuinely, truly oppressed. And I know what that looks like. I'm not oppressed. I'm not oppressed because of my race. I don't see my race as a burden.
You might ask, how did the far left react to this? They told her that she wasn't truly black. Interestingly enough, this is almost like reverse segregation, because you're convincing the people that were segregated in the past that they're victims, and then they want to segregate themselves because of that, which is kind of even more evil, since it puts all the blame on the actual person victimizing themselves and not on somebody else. Just makes you stupid, really. She said, I was messaged mainly by white people telling me that I am oppressed, but I wasn't raised to be a victim and I refuse to be one. Later that year, of course, she wrote an open letter declaring that she was leaving the cult of wokeness, leaving the far left because they're crazy, that they insist she will forever be oppressed because she's black, while others told her that she is not truly black. Okay, let's see what my friend Zeke has to say about this.
Seeing yourself as a victim is the easiest way to absolve yourself from any sort of responsibility in life. So if you can say I'm a victim, you can also claim that none of what's happening to me is my fault, instead of actually standing up and taking responsibility for your own actions. So I applaud this woman for saying that she's not a victim, especially after moving from someplace where there were bona fide victims and moving someplace where there is no victimhood. And to have people of other races, particularly white liberals, now saying, oh yes, no, you're a victim, you're a victim. They're doing that because they need something to fight for. They need something to sort of take away whatever self-guilt they're feeling. And by you saying that you're not a victim, especially as a black person, you're destroying their entire motive. You're destroying their focus. So I applaud her. And I hope that it continues to spread.
Again, remember just a second ago when we were talking about segregation and new age segregation and how the woke people are fighting for this? Look at this gem. Berkeley Co-op Person of Color Theme House bans white guests from common spaces. That's not exactly true, but it's, let me go into it a little bit more. Under a section labeled guests in common spaces, it states guests are allowed in common spaces, but please be mindful if there are house members in the room beforehand, of course, that are not white. White guests are not allowed in common spaces. It says that, but then when they were confronted about this is what they had to say. Stephen Ross, who is the manager for the Berkeley Student Cooperative, told the College Fix that neither the BSC nor the POC has an official policy excluding white guests from common spaces. Quote, white people can and do live in the People of Color House, but the focus for the People of Color House is providing a safe and supportive living environment for people of color. Yeah, I guess that's fine, but that's not how this is coming across. It says the Person of Color Theme House, a 5-story, 30-room home that can accommodate up to 56 students, exists to serve low-income, first-generation immigrant and marginalized students of color. That is all well and good, but that's not how this is coming across. And banning white people from simply existing in a space is ridiculous. But this is where we're at. This is just insanity. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, and as always, make sure to go over to my locals page, arielle.locals.com. I post a ton of content on there never seen before. Other than that, I will see you guys back here in a few days with a brand new video. If you are new, make sure to subscribe. Bye.